Welcome, everybody. What a great group. It's great to see you all. My name is Todd Wolfson. I'm a faculty member in the Department of Journalism and Media Studies, and I am General Vice President of Rutgers AAUP-AFT. And welcome to this town hall about our One Faculty campaign. So tonight, all we really want to do is have a focus. Sorry, I just got turned do not disturb on, or else I'm going to go crazy. Excuse me. We want to focus on our One Faculty campaign tonight. And just to be clear, what that is this campaign to merge the bargaining units of the PTLFC, the adjunct faculty here at Rutgers, BHSNJ, the medical faculty, which were UMD and J, which then merged into Rutgers, and Rutgers AAUP-AFT, which represents full-time non-medical faculty. So we're here to talk about the One Faculty campaign, which is merging these three units into one unit. And the reason we want to do this is about building our power and not allowing them to divide us any longer, and to keep ourselves united as we move forward. So that's all I'm really going to say. We have some amazing speakers tonight to walk us through this. The three presidents of the three unions: Amy Higer, the president of the PTLFC, Rebecca Givan, my counterpart, president of Rutgers AAUP-AFT, Kathy Monteleone, president of BHSNJ. And then I think also down the road, or maybe now, we'll have both Donna Murch and Howie Swerdloff. Donna from Rutgers AAUP-AFT, and Howie from the PTLFC. And just I'll say before I kick it to them, and I'm not sure what order, I think maybe Amy's speaking first, but I'm not sure. Just so we know what the kind of next hour will look like, we will have a sort of 30-minute discussion led by Amy, Becky, and Kathy on the One Faculty campaign. And then we will go into breakout groups for a short period, 15 minutes, to discuss this, ask questions, talk it through. We'll come back and do report backs, and then we'll discuss next steps. So that's really the aim and goal, is to get everyone up to speed, answer questions, and get us moving so that we can win One Faculty and we can build our power here at Rutgers. So with that, I'm going to sign off and pass it, I think, the baton to Amy.
Sure. Yeah, thanks, Todd. Thank you to everybody who's turned out for this, and for coming to discuss our contract campaigns and our historic effort to build one big faculty union at Rutgers. I'm Amy Higer. I've been teaching at Rutgers since the late 1990s. I'm currently president of the PTL union. Our executive board has about 14 members, and we have one huge overriding goal in this contract campaign, an overarching one, and that is to stop contingency at this university. Excuse me. I want to address three kind of different audiences here that are on this call. The first audience is to my PTL colleagues. I've been president of our union for almost 2 years, and I've met more of you in the past 2 years than I met in the whole 20 years before that I worked here. Meeting so many of you has been the single best thing about this job and this work. I love teaching. I love our students. I'm passionate about higher education. And to meet so many who feel this way has been amazing. And I want to include my board in that. Every single one of them are just incredible people. What has not been good is to hear from you all, or so many of you, how poorly you've been treated by this university, how it's demeaning and demoralizing to have to apply for our jobs every semester, how hard it is to plan our lives when we don't know what we'll be teaching the following year, how difficult it is to teach so many courses at different universities to make ends meet, how expensive it is to purchase healthcare on your own. So not surprisingly, the overwhelming response that we got from our contract survey is that our members want three things. First, equal pay for equal work. That is pay parity with NTTs, which would come to about $11,000 a course. Second is job security, right? Multi-year contracts. And third is access to affordable healthcare coverage for those who need it. Over the past few months, we've seen adjunct faculty at other universities win big gains, and the UC system just last week at Howard University. The UC system has given adjuncts access to healthcare for years now, what's going on with Rutgers? We've also seen that it's taken a credible strike threat to get what it takes to get treated fairly by these universities. So here's the thing. None of these gains were won by standalone adjunct unions. Adjunct faculty have been with NTTs and staff, with tenure faculty. Rutgers knows this. They would prefer to bargain with us as separate units. They understand the potential power of one big faculty union. We will fight for better working conditions no matter what, but bargaining is about power, and we have more power if we are at the table together. So please, I'm going to ask you personally, please sign your merger card so we can have this power at the bargaining table and throughout the bargaining process. To the tenured full-time faculty on this call, the poor labor conditions we face as PTLs is obviously bad for us, but it's also bad for you. And you may already know this, but allow me to say it anyway. Over-reliance on contingent labor makes it harder for departments to hire full-time tenure-line faculty and to replace those who have been lost to attrition. I've seen this in the political science department where I teach. When I started teaching there in the early 2000s, there were a handful of adjuncts and many full-time faculty members, tenured faculty members. Today, the situation is reversed. This makes perfect sense from the perspective of top administrators. It's pure neoliberal logic. By letting Rutgers get away with providing education on the cheap, there is little incentive for them to create well-paying, secure jobs. But while this may be good for them, it's really bad for part-time faculty, it's bad for full-time faculty, and it's really bad for our students. Students deserve to be taught by professors who aren't teaching at multiple universities, who will be around for the following semester, and who are paid a living wage. Finally, I want to talk to the graduate students and postdocs on this call. All of us on the faculty have a responsibility to you to make academia better. We need to use our union power at Rutgers to reverse the trend toward teaching students with contingent labor. You deserve a job market with secure jobs. That is much more likely to happen if faculty join together at universities like Rutgers and say to top administrators, enough is enough. Stop allocating vast resources to non-academic programs and start investing again in the primary mission of public universities: teaching, research, community outreach, and students. So this is what this contract campaign is really about, and why our board is joining with the leadership of the full-time faculty grad union to form one faculty union, and why our board is urging PTLs to sign these cards and to get this done. We also want to invite you to join our campaign, because we can't do this on our own. We need all of us involved. So thank you so much. And I will pass it over to Catherine, I think, right?
Hi, I'm Catherine Monteleone. I'm the president of AAUP-BHSNJ. I've been at this school for 30 years. I'm a professor in the Department of Medicine. And, you know, we're slowly seeing the erosion of our union. They are non-renewing people and replacing them with Barnabas hires who cannot be union members, according to them. Of course, the way they get around that is they say, oh, these people can't do more than 4 hours of academic work, when we know they're doing the same jobs as us. And if that means just being on rounds as a nephrologist, you're probably rounding at least 4 or 5 hours a day, you know, 5, 6 days a week. Well, that does not add up to 4 hours of teaching, because when you have fellows and residents with you on those rounds, it adds up to, you know, 16 to 20 hours of teaching. So it's the same job, just not calling it academic. So in that way, they're outsourcing our salaries to Barnabas, and they are eroding our union. And that's our biggest issue, because if this school gets rid of one union, that's not a good thing for all faculty at all. So the other issues we have are workload issues. We're losing people. So of course, as clinicians and researchers, the work has to get done, right? So it's done by less people, so the workload goes up. And you heard that in classrooms, you know, it's the same thing. So our we've been told all along that we are legacy UMDNJ, our benefits are not as good as you. I have dogs here who are barking at something. And you know, that we don't, cannot get the same benefits as you, that they're bargaining just with us. And we've had erosion of things like tenure. And when you know that when they do it to one union, it's going to come around and it's going to come to all the unions if they can erode tenure in our union. So we've come to the resolution that we are looking for strength in numbers. We're strength as all faculty, that we are one faculty, we are one university, and that we're willing to support you, and we hope you'd be willing to support us because our issues are essentially the same. You know, we have workload issues, we have compensation issues, we have pay equity issues, all the same issues that you have. And I think together we can do some really good work. We're working hard to start signing up people in our One Faculty campaign. And we have a good organization and we'll be working hard to do that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Amy and Kathy. And I have to say, before I say things that are a little bit more substantive, working with these three unions and their members and their leaders is really, really energizing and inspiring. I love working with Amy and Kathy, and none of the three of us work without really broad leadership groups that we have a lot of people in all of our unions who are really working to build and build together. I guess I just want to say a couple of things. I can't underline strongly enough what both Amy and Kathy said. What you see is, I would say with our union, we represent full-time faculty, grad workers, and counselors and postdocs. And what you see is, I know for many of my members, you'll say you feel under attack and not respected, but I actually think we're lagging. We're not as under attack as our adjunct colleagues or as our biomedical colleagues. And what we see is all the strategies that are being used on those unions, which will come for us next, right? So using adjunct labor as a way to maintain maximum flexibility, which means maximum job insecurity at the lowest possible cost, that will come for everyone. Union busting, outsourcing, detenuring faculty, which is happening to the biomedical faculty, that will all come to us, right? It may not be something that we're dealing with as much yet, but it will come for us. And so as we build for strong next contracts, which we're all going to be doing together, no matter what, we will be bargaining side by side, right? We're arm in arm at the bargaining table, fighting over the same issues to improve job security, whether that means for adjuncts, whether that means for our current non-tenure track faculty, whether that means for tenured faculty in the biomedical side who are facing detenuring, right? We're all fighting for job security. We're all fighting for a living wage. Our grads, like our adjunct faculty, are currently paid a sub-living wage. So our issues are really shared, and we're working in the context of a common employer, and we can only build strength if we do that together. And so to me, it's absolutely time to build as one faculty and to build across Rutgers, and that includes with our staff colleagues across the coalition of Rutgers unions, which we've also been doing, and to organize together and build a really strong contract campaign that we can win security and fair pay for all of us.
So do we want to go to Q&A and take some questions now? If folks want, either raise your hand or you can write your name. Actually, let's just do the raise hand function. If you can't do it, if you don't know how to do it, do it, Donna, to put your name, right stack in chat. But let's start with Oren.
Yes, thank you. And thank you for introducing this so well and clearly, and I agree 100% with everything that was said. I just wanted to ask, since, and maybe others have the same question, what actually needs to happen? What is preventing us from doing that? What is the procedure here that we're dealing with? So I just know and can explain it to people also.
That's a great question. Should I go ahead and jump in on that one? I'm
Sure.
seeing some nods.
Okay,
So
good,
what we need to do is demonstrate that the majority of our adjunct bargaining unit, which just means, the people who work under one contract, and our biomedical bargaining unit want to do this. And so both of those groups are currently doing their card signing campaign. And I think the links are in the chat. And we all need to work to reach out to those members and get them to sign cards. They will sign cards over a period of time, and once the majority of each group has signed cards, we then go to the employer and say, look, the majority of our members want this, now recognize this. There is a legal route, which is a bit technical. I can follow up more, we can share information if Rutgers refuses to do this after our showing of majority support, but we show majority support through the signing of the cards, and then we go to Rutgers and say, respect us, let us work together as one faculty the way other faculty across the country do, and recognize our single bargaining unit. So that's the technical piece, and that's why you'll see a lot, both on campus and online, about people signing their cards.
Amy or Kathy, do you want to add anything?
Or Howie.
Or Howie or Donna, actually, as well. I have Donna also on Stack, so we can go to Donna's question. And then I did see Andrew Kennis on Stack, but I don't any longer. So Andrew, if you want to ask a question, put your hand back up. Go ahead, Donna.
I just wanted to make a short comment and to say why I support this is that I think, as Becky outlined so powerfully, if you look at the events that have happened over the past year, and of course through the pandemic, we're looking at the taking out of tenure in Wisconsin, in Georgia, and several other southern states, even a discussion about it in Texas. And I think this process of making all of us contingent is moving at a pace that we could never have predicted. And one of the real joys of organizing with our union, having learned so much from our teaching faculty and from graduate students too, many of whom see themselves, given the current state of tenure track jobs, they see that it is almost inevitable that they too will join the teaching faculty who are facing contingency. That I really think that this is a moment where a kind of 21st century industrial unionism that actually talks about the university as it is, not as it was or how we would wish it to be, with a kind of magical thinking that somehow we're going to get more tenure track jobs. I just don't think that is going to happen. Instead, what we do are take the powerful precedents that we have for what tenure has meant to try to build in security for all workers. And I think what history tells us, right, is that organizing across job category, industrial unionism, this is the reason why the 1930s was such a period of expansion and growth. Craft unionism, dividing us by job category, segmenting off the most privileged workers. In the long run, this hurts even the most privileged. So I just want to stress that. I think that this is the right thing to do morally and politically, but I also think if we even wanted to be brass tacks, strategic, I think that this is absolutely necessary. And the conditions that Catherine described about the detenuring of medical and clinical faculty, also at a time where we know how important and central medical care has been, but the pace and force with which it's proceeding, I think joining together with the teaching faculty and the clinical faculty is really important. The final thing I want to say, because I know this has been an issue that other people have raised, they've been concerned about the rapidity with which we're moving. And an important thing to think about with this process, in order for us to have a merger of the bargaining units, we have to build more density within all of our unions. So in this way, it's not winner take all, walk away from the table. If we haven't organized or reached 51%, then we have lost. No, we are building density. And so for me, this is one of the biggest things that convinced me to think about this kind of organizing will strengthen us. We have been functioning by coordinating our contracts over the last 2 years explicitly, but really going back through the incredible work of Patrick Nolan much earlier. We had built a union coalition, and we saw the fruit that it bore in our winning of a grad extension, the deferring of layoffs, and winning back our raises during the pandemic. So we've seen how the coordinated contracts have worked. So to me, this is the next logical step. And the actual process of doing this, the process itself will help build power. And that's really important that we look at it in that way as a process. Thanks.
Thank you, Donna. Those are really important words. So we need to build wall to wall. We need to get rid of the medieval structure of the university and create non-tiered system. And we need to see it as a process, no matter what. Let's keep going. We have Andrew on stack. So Andrew, jump in. And then I saw Kathy with a hand up. So Kathy, if you want to respond after Andrew goes, please do. And we'll make some space for you and we'll take it from there. Go ahead, Andrew.
Hello, everybody. I just wanted to first off thank Karen Thompson for an early meeting that we had last semester, where she was a gold mine of knowledge on past issues that are very relevant and historical issues that are very relevant to this whole merger thing. So I know Karen, I don't mean to volunteer Karen for anything, but surely if she has the willingness and time to help out with any kind of historical legal issues, there's nobody that knows them better than she does. And I believe there's nobody who's been working at Rutgers longer than she has as a lecturer. So just wanted to make everyone aware of that for maybe the few folks that didn't know that, and thank her. And also bring something up that Karen and I talked about, which is that, and this has always encouraged me in any of the discussions I've had with leadership about the merger, and it's that the administration doesn't want this for the most part, and that they're going to oppose this and they're going to fight, I think, tooth and nail against it if they haven't already started to do so. And I think that's a huge, huge incentive for us to be very committed to this merger, because when administration is that set against something, as I expect it will be if they haven't already been, it really shows that the union is going in the right direction. So I just wanted the leadership to perhaps, or anybody else who is knowledgeable about what they expect the administration reaction to be, and has already been, to speak to that. And also wanted to just add that I fully agreed with Donna about the many compelling reasons she mentioned in favor of this merger, especially the future of academic labor and where it's heading and where it's been heading for decades on end. It's a fantastic point to include. But yeah, just some dialogue and some chatter about the administration and what to expect with them when and if this goes through would be great. I'm very curious to see what folks are anticipating and what they've already perhaps encountered in this regard. And thanks to everyone for all the hard work they've done on this, because there's a lot of people who did a lot of great activism and put a lot of time into bringing this about. And so wanted to throw that appreciation in there too.
Thank you, Andrew. So I know, Kathy, you had your hand up. So why don't you start responding, and then we'll see if Becky and Amy want to jump in after that.
I want to say something really quick, which is, Donna, I so agree with you. And one issue that's really affected us already, and which I see spreading, horribly throughout the university, is retaliation, a loss of academic freedom. We've had people non-tenured for professionalism, which means they said something that somebody didn't like. And that's clinicians. So you can imagine lecturers, researchers, we're all at risk for that. And that is a major issue for an academic institution. So, that's something, by banding together, we really have to fight, because if you lose academic freedom, you're not a university, certainly not a beloved community. So, I'm really concerned about that. And I hope that's an issue we can all work together to push back on.
Becky or Amy, do you want to respond either to Andrew or to Donna, et cetera?
I'll just say that I think this is absolutely right. We have to deal with where we actually are and where we actually work. And where we work is, you know, the neoliberal university that is, and where academic freedom is under attack. I think sometimes we feel lucky. We work at Rutgers. We're not under the same kinds of threats as colleagues in places like Texas and Florida, but we're still at risk. We're still not secure. And quite frankly, the attacks in places like Texas and Florida are a little bit more honest than the attacks that we have under the guise of being a beloved community. So I think that's important to keep in mind as we think about how we want to make this university the Rutgers that we need, that we deserve, that our students deserve, that New Jersey deserves, because we're not leading up to that promise or that rhetoric at this point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, can I just add that with so much contingency, you can't have academic freedom. You know, we are so worried about everything, speaking up about anything, that's not sustainable. You can't have a university where you have this much contingency.
Excellent. We got Howie. Jump in, Howie.
I just wanted to add how that Rutgers is likes to think of itself as a flagship university, as a trendsetter in so many ways, and in fact it is. And it's so important that we win these demands that we have, because we can be setting the pace for other universities around the country. This is we're in a big media market, and people pay attention to what we do here at Rutgers. So we really need to win to raise the status of adjuncts and other contingent workers all around the country.
I see the stack is open. If anyone wants to ask a question, either put your hand up or write your name in or write stack in the chat. If not, I guess we could move to the breakout groups, which I think Sherry has devised. So I'll give you one last call for any more. All right, great. Oren, jump back in.
Just that I think I saw a question in the chat at some point throughout this. So I just wanted to let you know that was the case. And I wanted to ask, you had mentioned that if we get that 50%, then we are going to request that they recognize in the administration, but are they obligated? Do we have, like, are we guaranteed this, or is this something that's still a fight after that? Like you mentioned legal recourse and so on, but where does that stand and what does that involve a little bit?
Yeah, who wants to take it of our team?
If we go to PERC, the legal route, right? If we go to PERC, the university will throw monkey wrenches in our path every step of the way and delay this and delay this and delay this. So, and there are lots of arguments they will make, some of which our attorneys have mentioned to us, which I won't, and if we get into it later, we can. So the way to do this is with power, right? Exercising our political strength as a united faculty, and having a majority will be very difficult for them to deny the will of the majority, and certainly that's what we're going to be saying, right? Rutgers is thwarting the democratic will of their employees.
I'll just respond. I think I didn't see, but I guess Rafi asked a question in the chat about why we should do this as one bargaining unit, not separate bargaining units. And the answer is we're doing it both. We are separate bargaining units currently, and we'll hopefully get started at the bargaining table together as separate bargaining units. But our real strength comes from being honestly indivisible, which I guess is a cliched word in the US context. But really our strength comes from fighting together. I mean, we have sat at each other's bargaining tables for the last few bargaining rounds, and it's infuriating. I mean, Kathy and others can give accounts, but it's being told that these issues are different and that there's a legitimate reason why our unit, the legacy Rutgers faculty, should have parental leave, but the biomedical faculty shouldn't, or that a full-time NTT should have, a clear right to continue in their job and strong reappointment procedures, but a part-time NTT faculty member, which is what an adjunct faculty member is, should have no such rights, right? And so if they can give people different things by having them in separate bargaining units, they will absolutely do so. And it's a way to weaken us.
Excellent. Thank you, Becky. So yeah, I think we're going to move into breakouts. I would say one quick thing before we do. Oren, are you trying to get back in?
I'm sorry to interrupt, but you had mentioned that there's oppositions and everything. What are some counter arguments besides what we hear? Something I can do specifically to try and push people to sign those cards? Because I do think this is so important.
Or can I suggest you bring
me?
that up in your small group and then we bring it back?
Great. Yep.
Time?
Great. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Sorry though. Thank you, Oren. And let me just say this really quickly. I just want to confirm one thing Becky said, which Donna said earlier, which is to Rafi's question, which I didn't see on the chat, so I apologize, which is the university will do everything it can to divide us. That's what it wants to do. That's what it needs to do. That's how it keeps us weak, right? There is one response to their divide and conquer strategy, and that is unite and fight. And that is the point here, right? It's not perfect. It's not going to be easy. We will have our own challenges in doing it, but that is the way we win. We unite and we fight them. And I also want to just confirm from my vantage what Howie said, which is we do not want to win this legally. Our power is our power in the streets and with our members, right? We are a union. The legal recourse is, some recourse that we could maybe use down the road, but we are going to demand this. We're going to demand this, as Howie said, when we get majority cards, and we are going to make it very difficult through our militant actions for them to say no. Our militant actions. If we want to win this, we're going to have to fight. We're going to have a commitment to this, and it's not going to be easy. And we're going to have to do things that make ourselves, make the university community, and absolutely make the administration uncomfortable. And that's how we'll win. And then the last thing I just want to underline before we go into breakout groups, and maybe we can talk about it here. The BHSNJ faculty are beginning their card campaign now. They're collecting cards. It's starting now. The PTLFC, our amazing adjunct faculty, are in the back end of it. So as we think about what's to be done, all hands on deck supporting the adjunct faculty and finishing their card campaign. I think all of us in all three units have to help. And so maybe at the back end, with the support of Amy and Brian and Howie and Emily, we can figure out how we can all support, but I think we need to zero in on that. But with that, I think Sherry has us in breakout groups, and we should go to breakout groups and from here. All right, so do we want to take 2 minutes or so and get some quick report backs, and then we have some next step action items from folks? Does that make sense? So does any group want to report back on critical questions, critical ideas? In our group, for instance, there was a idea that Jamie came up with of a counter on both the PTL and FC and BHSNJ, like cards, and getting those cards and like a thermometer. But did particular groups have ideas that they want to like report back on? But we don't need this to be exhausted. Jump in, Dan.
Yeah, I'll jump in, and I see Dan next. Sorry, just to say that Rafi in our group was talking about making sure that if there's one president for people that might have different kinds of concerns, that all voices are heard and everyone's well represented. And so what I was trying to mention is that we will talk about how to merge the unions in a way that works for everyone so that we have good representation. So in our bylaws right now, for instance, we have the different campuses, Newark, New Brunswick, and Camden, all represented in proportional numbers, faculty and grads, and we have vice presidents for tenure stream, for non-tenure track, for counselors, for postdocs. And so we have those representation structures. And if we come together as unions, we will be redoing the set of bylaws and making sure that we have an inclusive process so that that really works for everyone and there's good representation and there's not, one voice only. Yeah. Dan?
Yeah, our group, we had a good short discussion. The two questions came up to bring back. One was the issue of confidentiality. A number of people from the three different unions had talked to people that were concerned about signing because they were afraid that their names would go back to their department chairs or deans or whatever. So the point that some people made was that in all communications that go out, we should make a really strong point that your signatures will be confidential and will not be shared with the university. The other question that came up was, what does the full-time union need to do to make the merger happen? And I mean, I shared what my understanding was basically nothing. The work is in the two other unions, at least at this stage. If we proceed beyond this stage and talk about merging the unions, then of course, all three unions will have to do something else. But for right now, so I hope that was accurate.
Becky,
Thanks,
Todd,
Dave.
can I
Yeah, go
respond
ahead,
to?
Karen, jump in.
I just want to respond to the first thing that Dan said about confidentiality. And, I know I'm an outlier, I'm not, I understand how people are fearful and concerned about their departments, but I've been at the university as a PTL for 43 years. I have been here this long. I don't have tenure. The reason I'm here is because of collective action. I'm here because I'm not afraid to sign my name. I'm not afraid to go to the mic. And actually, those are the things that protect you. Because if you are associated with the union, you're actually more protected than if you lay low and just try to be quiet. I mean, I can only use myself as an example. And that is the way you secure your position, by speaking out.
Thank you, Karen. So true. And if we're going to win these things, we're all going to have to, again, be a little uncomfortable and make them a little uncomfortable. Do we have any other folks who want to report back from group discussion? I see Patrick, jump in.
Great. Thanks,
And
Patrick.
Donna. So we'll have Patrick and Donna, and then we'll go into next steps. I think Becky and Amy and Kathy will walk us through the next steps. I also see Ray. So we'll do Pat. Oh God. All right. Some are raising, some people are doing different things. So I'm getting a little confused. But this is the stack I have. Patrick, Donna, Ray, Andy.
Okay.
So go ahead,
And
Patrick.
I am going to welcome Brian to clean up anything I say that's not exactly accurate or clear.
I'm ready,
But,
Patrick. I got notes.
the question came up about the winter-summer contract. And I think, our goal is to make sure that contract doesn't get renegotiated as a separate contract. It's another way to divide us. Grads, PTLs, faculty are all sort of caught up in that contract that's bargained separately, where we have the least amount of power over the summer when most of our members aren't around. And then the other piece came up in a sort of a technical question that faculty might ask is, well, don't we have a lot to do? And is this the right time to do it? Right, to merge the units? And the technical answer is it's the only time to do it, because technically, right, there's a contract bar. When you're under contract, you can't merge the units. So you have to do this as your contracts are expiring. So it's the right time to do it. But more importantly, we thought about what happened the last contract round of bargaining, when the full-time contract got settled, right, on the brink of job action, and the PTL contract didn't get settled at the same time. And that's really what we're trying to do here, is making sure that we're all fighting together to bargain together and settle our contract together. And the medical school faculty went 2 years beyond expiration to get their contract settled. So we know that we have the same goals. And if we think about our last contract campaign, this really is the only way to fight for a new contract.
Thank you, Patrick. Donna, and just so we know the order, Donna, then Ray, then Andy, then Brian. If Brian might not be on, Brian might have taken himself off.
Good.
Go ahead,
Patrick,
Donna.
got it all.
We had a really interesting discussion. Michael gave us a lot of information about BSHNJ. And one of the important points was that we discussed why we think this pressure has been put on the medical side of the faculty. We discussed it being cost saving. And one thing I thought was interesting about that is that when I think of the Rutgers AAUP-AFT, it is often the highest paid faculty that have the most power. So I think that people in the law school and the business school who are highly paid actually have a lot of power. And I was just interested again in that paradox a little bit, that these are highly paid faculty, but that are also so rapidly undergoing this stripping of tenure and the insertion of Barnabas. One issue that we talked about is essentially because of those questions of pay differential and the relationship both to the full-time union and the teaching faculty, that, you know, one of our challenges will be convincing them to join with us. So I thought that was interesting, and it's something to think about how we reach out both as union leadership, but also rank and file to members of other unions. You know, how do we actually turn solidarity into a process? The other issue that came up was the question of how we think the administration will respond. And that was hard because we don't really know, and maybe Todd or Becky can speak to this question more when we move into next steps. But, you know, the same kinds of anxieties about, you know, how are they going to respond and what will be the consequences of this?
Becky, you want to respond, or should we keep going through stack and swing back to Donna's? Yeah. Okay, Ray, please go ahead.
We were discussing in our room about not so much the internalizing, which you have, seems like you have it under control, people taking care of the inside, but it's the outside that I'm more concerned about, and that is visibility. Okay, in order for us, and I think that Karen brought it up also, where she's very loud. I've worked with Karen on the board, and she is, and she says her mind, I mean, over and over and over again until you could shoot yourself. But she gets the point across. And I think what we're missing is we can't really communicate and utilize all of the part-time lectures, because thanks to the virtual positioning, they're all over the world. So we really can't get them together all the time. There's always going to be that little group of people that could find time to get together. But the majority of the 2,000 or 3,000 or whatever thousand we have are all over the world. One of the things we need to do is we need to start getting more visible. It doesn't mean that we have to spend a lot of money. I'm not talking about TV commercials, and I'm not talking about hiring people that slap other people at the Oscars. I'm just talking about simple things like little brochures, pamphlets, not just, you know, come out with a general theme for a day, you know, run a party and then disappear. That's what we've been doing. I mean, we hit and run, okay? We show up, we spend all the time and energy trying to promote where we are, what we are, who we are, and then disappear. And then they don't see us again for another 6 months or whatever it is. I think that we have to get more brochures out there. We have to get more placards. We have to get more signage. We have to let not only the students know, but we also need to let the parents know. And that's why I was recommending a little brochure. Let the kids take it home to their parents. Show them that we have unity. Show them the meaning of who we are. Not just the title of who we are, but the meaning. I mean, part-time lecturers and graduate students and everything else, we make up the teaching of this university. I mean, when you look at the full-time, they're not here. Walk on walk through the 6th floor, 9th floor. You can rent those offices for the rest of the year because nobody's going to show up. So now we've got all this real estate. We've got a hierarchy that just keeps building and building and building. We've got vice provosts, assistant provosts, executive provosts. We've got, you know, all kinds of different titles. These people are not cheap. These people come with a very expensive purse, okay? And therefore, what are we doing? I mean, where are we in terms of the parents knowing who we are? Are we even focusing on them? They're part of the taxpayers. They should know that they're paying a lot of money and we're not getting noticed and we're not getting taken care of. Karen said she's not even on tenure track. How the hell do you get on tenure? I don't want to go, I'm too old for tenure track, but there's a lot of young people that really want to be on tenure track, deserve to be on tenure track, have degrees from some of the finest universities in the world, and yet they're stuck. What are we doing with them? I mean, that's what we were starting to discuss.
Thank you so much, Ray. Really important points. I also wish we could capture President Holloway's the sound of his voice when he has to call on Karen in a meeting. He's like so beleaguered when he calls on you. All right, so I want to do a quick time check, which is we're at the hour. Amy's on stack and Andy was on stack. I lost him, but we need to come to him if he still has a question. And then we have next steps. So can folks hang around for 5 more minutes and let's get Amy and Andy, and then let's talk about next steps. I think Becky has next steps and maybe Amy as well. I'm not sure who else does. Amy, please jump in. Andy, are you still on stack or did you take yourself off? I don't see Andy anymore. Go ahead, Amy. Andy, if you want to get back on stack, let me know.
Okay, just real quick. In our breakout room, somebody asked what you meant by militant, Todd. And I think what you meant is that we have to be strike ready. We have to be able to withhold our labor to get power and to win things. So not violence. I reassured him it's not, you're talking about violence. This is the
I was not talking about violence. I was talking about withholding our labor. That's our power.
Yes, that's what I thought, just confirming. And to Ray's point, the we is us, I love all those ideas. They're all right on. We need people. We need people we are the union. It's not you, it's all of us. So please sign up for the media committee, sign up to phone bank. We need cards. We need more cards. We need more cards. And getting the cards, as Donna said, is a strategy, right? We're reaching out to people in ways that we haven't done in years, or maybe ever. This is a mobilizing strategy. And I think, yeah, that was all I wanted to say at this point. Whoever's on stack.
I think Becky, go ahead, Becky.
Yeah, this is sort of partly moving us into next steps. I want to point out what Amy Baruth, who is in my department and is an adjunct faculty member that I actually get to know as a full-timer, which is the exception, not the rule, although we're all working on it. But Amy put in the chat that one of our program directors sent an email to all of the adjuncts in our department, essentially encouraging them to sign the merger card, although saying that it was up to them. She was just drawing their attention to it, which is a good way to get the word out. So I think as members of the full-time unit, it's really important that we all reach out. One of the things about being an adjunct faculty member is that you're teaching on multiple campuses, you're in and out, you're transient in this way that makes some of our adjunct colleagues really hard to find. So it's important for full-timers to forward the information, forward the card link, ask your adjunct colleagues to sign. The other thing I want to say, I see Maxine has a question too, but I'll say in terms of other action items, we need to work on this on every level, which means in all of our schools and colleges, on our campuses, all of our Rutgers campuses, and also legislatively. And to that end, there are some important legislative initiatives we need to do in order to get something that looks like a new deal for higher education in New Jersey that includes real job security for everyone and healthcare for everyone. And so the Coalition of Rutgers Unions is going to be holding legislative forums soon, and I'll put the links in the chat. You'll get some emails about them, but those links did not come up. I will ask somebody, Patrick or Sherry, to put the links in the chat. Thank you, or Alan. You can register for those. Those will be online, and you'll get the chance to meet with some of our legislators who can be our allies in making legislative change happen.
Can I just add, you don't need to show up for all 3 hours. Legislators will be spread out over those 3 hours. So come for a half hour, an hour, if you're welcome to stay for the whole 3 hours.
Amy, Kathy, do you have any other next steps you want to share? I do want us to lean into a little bit about how the full-time unit can support the adjunct card process, but maybe you can start us in that direction, Amy, and then Emily can jump in, or others who are thinking about this. Brian, Howie, Dan can jump in and add some thoughts about that, and also us on the full-time side. And I don't see Kathy. If she's still here, I want to give her, I see her name. I want to give her some space as well, but go ahead, Amy.
Yeah, just for the full-time faculty on the call, if you can find out, we can have lists, we can give you lists of PTLs in your department. So, just making them aware that you support what we are all trying to do makes a huge difference. We can call them 5 times, but if you talk to them once, it makes the difference. So that's something we really need. We really need people to turn out for canvassing in Jersey City, knocking on doors. It's really fun. And we're going to do it in Philadelphia the following week. Emily's putting all kinds of stuff in the chat. So, if you reach out to Emily Rosenzweig, who is amazing, she will sign you up for something. And there's just no shortage of things that we can do. And I have to say, it's really, really fun to do this stuff. People are great. PTLs are fantastic. Full-time faculty we're working with in the union are wonderful. It's great energy, something nice to do now that we can actually be out there and weather's getting nice, all that. So thank you. Thanks, Todd.
Absolutely.
Can I just say something for 15 seconds?
Please, there you are. Go ahead, Brian, jump in.
Hi, everybody. Becky already said it, but I just wanted to emphasize it because it's so important. If you're a program director or you work with your program director or you're a department head, and you can send out an email of the kind that Becky referenced that was sent out to labor studies and elsewhere, that's a powerful tool. I think there's 100 and some departments where this can happen. And for our unit to reach the hardest to reach PTLs, this might be one of our best opportunities to do so. So please, 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 if you can do that, that's great. Thanks.
Excellent. Thank you, Brian. One thing I'll say that we're trying to do in the School of Communication and Information, which we could also try in other schools, and Brian's helping with this, as is Emily, is we're pulling together a meeting of all full-time faculty, both NTT and tenure stream, all adjunct faculty, all grad workers, and all professional staff in URA for one meeting about the upcoming contract campaign. But we're going to also press in that meeting to get PTL cards signed during that process. So I think this is a way we need to start to build. This is what Donna was saying earlier. We need to pivot from craft unionism where we only think about our own jobs. We need to think about all of us in all of our spaces. And so one way to do that is in our departments to start to break down the barriers that they built on the other side. Those barriers that say that only full-time faculty go to department meetings, not grad workers, not adjunct faculty. That's not right. We need to work against those practices in the university and work together to build other sorts of practices. So I'm going to kick it to you, Kathy. See if you have any final words, and then to you, Becky, for any other final words, and we can take it from there.
Just quickly want to say in our breakout, the point came up that the smaller unions worry about being absorbed and having their voice not heard. And we're a small union too, so compared to AFT, but I really believe in this group of people, and I really think we can make this so that we're all strong, not anybody weakened by this merger. So I don't think we need to worry about that. I think we can write it. We can, have our structure. And I think there's no way that this group of people is going to let anybody be left behind.
I almost don't want to say anything more except, this works by us all working together and organizing. It doesn't happen automatically. It doesn't happen passively. And so there are so many ways to be involved. Talk to your students, let them know what kind of university is, what priorities the leadership of the university is showing versus all of us who work here. And we can do this, but we can only do it together. And it's going to take a lot of work, a lot of organizing, but we can come out much stronger and with fantastic contracts at the end of what will be a big, rough, and potentially transformative contract campaign.
Wonderful. All right. Well, I want to thank our speakers, Becky, Amy, Kathy, Howie, Donna, for amazing leadership. And thank you all for coming out. One faculty. We're going to win this together. All right, everyone, have a beautiful night.
Thank you.
Good night, everyone.